Welcome to the Live Bright Show, the pod for badass service-based entrepreneurs who are creating businesses and lives that are fun, successful, and free. And now your host, seven-figure business owner, coach, and founder of the Live Bright movement, here to help you own your potential, Moran.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Live Bright Show. Today, I'm super psyched. I've got Amar Ghose with me. Amar is the founder and CEO of ZenMaid. He is a former house cleaning service owner. He travels the world while leading a large team and scaling his SaaS business. He's a big football fan, which I can't wait to get into. He's a dedicated husband and dog dad. He's smart, driven, he's bold AF, and welcome to the show, Amar.
Thank you, Molly. I love that. I love that introduction. I gotta get that one passed on to other hosts going forward.
I like to bring the energy, you know. I definitely like to bring the energy. And it's funny. I've had a few people be like, "Can you come introduce me on stage?" I'm like, "Yes, I can. Just invite me. I will come. Absolutely."
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Professional hype man.
That's right. That's right. I am a very good cheerleader. I'm not gonna lie. That is without the pom-poms. I'm pretty good at it. But let's get right to it, Amar. Where in the world are you talking to us from today?
So I live in London now. That I just moved to London. So my wife is British. So yeah, like you were saying in the intro, we are traveling. I met her in Thailand, it'd be 8 years ago now. And so, yeah, we live in the UK.
Okay, very cool. I had wondered what brought you to the UK. I'm so curious about all the travel that you've done before, and I want to get into that in terms of how you run your business and stuff. But before we go there, just tell the listeners a little bit about what ZenMaid is, so they have a little idea of that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So ZenMaid is a scheduling software for maid services. So we've been doing that for 12 and a half years now. So quite a long time that we've been been in the industry. But it's essentially every maid service on the planet has to know where they have to be and when, and what details are associated with every appointment. Otherwise, eventually they're going to go out of business because clients won't be happy. And we essentially have like that system, but we like to think that we've thought of every detail that a cleaning business owner could possibly want in this system. Although, as we're finding out every single day, there's always more. So we're constantly building and developing.
Yeah. And I got to ask you, did you start ZenMaid? I didn't realize it had been that long. Congratulations.
Yeah,
did you
thanks.
start it after your own experience of running a house cleaning service and being like, there is a need out here? Where did that come from?
So yes and no. So honestly, it was one of those things where we were just young and dumb and didn't really know what we were doing. And it was very much like an ignorance is bliss thing. So I was running my own maid service with a friend, and he built out a little website backend for us to manage everything ourselves. The really silly thing is that we didn't really go out and look for many other options or for any other software. Maybe he did at some point and just didn't think that any of them were good enough. So he built out this little thing on his own. And then essentially what happened was I shut down the maid service. Another friend approached me and said, "Hey, I think we can build this into a software company." And even at that point, we just kind of went out and started building and just didn't look at the competition or anything that was out there. And what's funny is that I think that if we had, we would have been like, "Oh, there's already people that are like claiming to solve this problem." And we would have thrown in the towel 12 and a half years ago. So it's very much like an ignorance is bliss thing that by the time we realized there was like real competition out there, it was like, "Oh, well, like we already have a working product. We should probably at least like stick with this for a little bit longer." And that was 12 and a half years ago.
That's awesome. And I love that ignorance is bliss. And I think that's like such a gift of youth too. You know what I mean? It's like now 12 and a half years in, and youth also just in terms of experience. I don't even mean just in terms of age, but experience. But 12 and a half years later, now I'm sure when you evaluate business decisions, you're like, ooh, well, that could be really hard. Like, I don't know if I want to choose that kind of hard, right? Or whatever. But so good for you. What surprised you about your ZenMaid journey?
So I think it's what I was saying, that it's been 12 and a half years and we're always still developing, that we're still like our team is growing pretty much on a monthly basis now. We're adding like new team members and stuff. And so it's like one of those things that there's always more to do. There's always more to accomplish. And that I definitely thought that we'd be topping out quite a long time ago. I mean, like I have a photo up on from what, 2015, where I think the goal was to get to $5,000 like a month. And now it's like that. We literally do that in a day these days. Like hell, we do a lot more than that in a day. Like these days, that's like one of the things. But I think it's not necessarily the fact that like we're making more than I ever thought possible. I think it's really seeing both the impact that as a company we're able to have and we're able to continue having on like the cleaning industry. But I think on the product side, I definitely thought that we might have a couple of years of building. And even to me, a couple of years was how much more software development can we do beyond 3 years to solve problems for this industry? And now it's just, we're 12 and a half years in, and I could probably outline 10 more years of development for my team if I wanted to, because I just see all the possibilities of the things that we can do. And so that's something that I never really expected, that I don't think I realized that it was like an infinite game. It's a never ending game.
which is both awesome and maybe a little like, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, wait, but didn't I win this? No, that wasn't a permanent state of being. That was just a snapshot.
No, I love that. And I think also in the last, so 12 and a half years, certainly our use of technology in this industry has changed hugely. Yep. And massive. When I first started, and I started my business in 2008, and I printed out calendars from Outlook with addresses on them. And that was the routing sheet that I sent my team out with. I was like, here you go. And then we had a separate sheet with notes on this is what you do. And so then all of a sudden there were softwares, and it was like, hallelujah, right, to manage this. And now just with AI and all of the things that have been happening in the past several years, I'm sure the possibilities and the potential is just mind-boggling, actually.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Do you have anything specifically that you're like where your mind is blown with where your software could go in the next couple of years that you never would have imagined when you started?
I think that AI has definitely unlocked just so many like possibilities that it was very hard to fathom like 2 or 3 years ago, right? Even a year ago, with a lot of things. That an example is we just had the ZenMaid team retreat that was in Barcelona just 2-3 weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. And one of the sessions that we actually did there was using AI tools. We split the team into 4 different groups, and 4 different groups built their own versions of client portals for ZenMaid clients in the future to use. And that was something that previously it might have been the entire team doing a hackathon for a weekend, might have come out with one of those prototypes. And now it was in literally an hour and a half. We had 4 different prototypes and were able to compare them and what we liked about the different things. So that's less inside ZenMaid. That's more about like almost our development process. In terms of where ZenMaid could go in the future, one of the silly ideas that I have in my head where it's like, silly and unnecessary, but I think would actually be really cool and would be appreciated if we could pull it off, is like if you grew up playing any games like The Sims or something like that, where it's almost like a real world simulation, and then some sort of like cash or points in like the top like right side that we all like grew up like playing or whatever. And I was just thinking, how cool would it be if like you, Molly, woke up in the morning and looked at your phone and you could just see where all of your teams were and how much money they were earning you at the time, and just like a little like map of just like, this is your little town and these are all the places that like your town is like generating your cleaning business like revenue like right now. And like just one where, not necessary, but I think it'd be a fun one for especially for our much bigger and more advanced owners that aren't in the office anymore, right? Where they've got, multiple office staff. Like, I just think that would be like a fun one. Stuff like
that would be fun. That would be fun just to like look at your phone and be like, see the dollar signs going up and whatever. Exactly. Yeah, that would be awesome. I love that. I love that. That's excellent. For me, business is obviously about strategy and growth and impact and all of that, but it's also about fun. Like, what's the most fun you've had in your business in the last year?
The retreat that we just had in Barcelona was a lot of fun. That we've definitely found that that's going to always be good. I'm definitely a big fan of fun in the business as well. That actually this year the primary topic of our retreat was on culture and values, and one of the values that's like an official company value is delight, which is, just unexpectedly or surprisingly like pleasant, essentially. So,
Oof, I love that.
yeah, we've obviously been talking about the Maid Summit. The Maid Summit was one that, granted, that's from like 5 or 6 years ago that we did that for the first time, but that was actually an example of that where I was thinking about it's like, okay, my hands are kind of tied where my co-founder is building the product and like he wants me to leave him alone for 6 months. So I have 6 months. What can I do for the industry that adds value to everyone but doesn't take up the technical team's time? And we came up with that like idea. And so yeah, that would be like one example. I always try to let my team just do like fun sort of ad ideas and like email ideas. And if you've ever seen in like during Halloween inside the ZenMaid app, all the colors go black and orange, and there's a little bat that like flies around and stuff.
That's
And
great.
so yeah, we just do little things like that where it's just like we know that you log into our tool every single day. There must be just little ways that we can make our software just a little bit more delightful.
Love that. I
Yeah.
love that so much. I love that value too. I might have to take it back to my cleaning company. It's so
Yeah.
good. It's so many of us have like, I mean, they're like kind of boring, but we stand for them. And our values
Hmm.
at my company are kindness, integrity, community,
Yeah.
fun, and oh no, sorry, not fun, community, professionalism, and growth. And I'm like, I want fun. I always want
Yeah.
fun, and I bring the fun, and we have a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
if delight could be one, I think that's great in terms of our culture, our internal cultural, but also with what we do with our clients. I think that could be awesome. That's a
Yeah.
great idea. Um,
Definitely.
I want to go back to something you mentioned, which
Hmm.
is the Zen Maid conference or the
Yes.
Maid Summit. It's the Maid
Made
Summit.
some.
So tell us a little bit about that and what that has become and what people
Yeah.
can expect from it, because I know it is coming up.
Yeah, definitely. So with that's the Maid Summit, and that is the first and I believe the biggest like conference or virtual conference for maid service owners. And so that we've done, I think, for 5 out of the last 6 years or 4 out of the last 5. We unfortunately didn't do it last year, but with that, it's for maid service owners. We bring together a variety of experts like yourself who are very specific to the cleaning industry. I think that's one thing that makes it different is that we're very specifically only looking for people that specialize in this industry specifically. And so that's something that we've done, yeah, for 4 or 5 years now. And usually that has anywhere from 30 to sometimes as high as like 60 experts that are speaking. An interesting thing with that is so I think that the first year that we did that, we had this idea that we were going to maybe be able to offer this conference where people were going to be able to come and they were going to learn like everything they needed to know about like building a cleaning business and all of that stuff. And what we sort of figured out by year like 2 or 3 is that really more what it is people get to come in, and I feel like it's almost like Costco samples, right? Where people like come in and they just get to sort of like see and get introduced to a bunch of different coaches and personalities in the industry, and they get to see who resonates with them. And then usually there's only so much that every person can go into in 20, 30, 45 minutes, like just on one
Right.
off like talk. And so what we've found is the people that have generally been the happiest with the summit over the years are the ones who come back to us 2 years later and are like, hey, because of your first summit, I made this friend or I met this person and ended up connecting with this person. And so it's become a really great way for the industry to really connect with each other. And there's so many people that absolutely love the event because they're not able to go to Vegas every year or Chicago or to go to these other events. And so for a lot of people, it's like the one time a year that they really feel like they're on this journey with a bunch of other cleaning business owners. And that's something like I wish I could tell you that I was like foreseeing that like in the future when I did this, but
Right.
it's more just something that like that's what it's become, and it's really amazing to see.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. And we'll put a note in the show notes about so
Hmm.
that people can get signed up for that as well. It's free. It's a free
Yeah.
event too, right?
Yeah.
This is like a
Entirely free.
gift. This is a gift that you and your team put together for the whole industry, which is so cool, especially because there are so many people, like you said, that they might be starting up or they might not have the freedom or the money or the whatever to travel to the other events that are out there. There is a ton of great education in there. And obviously, full disclosure, I am one of those educators. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. Amar, I'd love to hear a little bit about you, a little bit from you about your leadership because you've grown so much. Your team has grown so much over the past several years. How many people were at your retreat in
I think
Barcelona?
we had 22 people, I
Nice.
believe. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's
it's quite a
awesome.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats, man. So, talk to us a little bit about how your leadership has grown and developed over the course of being in business, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, with that, I mean, I feel like ZenMaid has always been my vehicle for personal growth, and so I feel like my growth as a person, as a CEO, is closely matched like ZenMaid. That we're hiring at a pace now that it's like I can keep up with, where I couldn't have kept up with it in the past. So yeah, man, like where to start in terms of like how I've grown like as a leader. I mean, when I think about back to when I started this company, it was me and my co-founder, and my co-founder was a bit of a like a savant, right? So a little bit of a difficult personality to sometimes like deal with, but absolute genius when it came to like product and code and everything. And I started out kind of the journey learning to navigate that. And honestly, the first like 3 years of the business, it was essentially just the two of us. And it was sometime in year three that we began to really build it out. And so it was quite like slow and steady over time. But yeah, like leadership is just, it's so many different skills. That's kind of like, like everyone refers to it as one skill, and it's just so many different, there's communication, there's strategy, there's like ability to execute, right? There's self-management. There's so many like different things. And I will say that I think that I suffered from a little bit of not necessarily like imposter syndrome, because I feel like imposter syndrome almost implies like maybe like a lack of confidence. But I feel like for a long time while leading the ZenMaid team, it almost felt like someone else could be leading better than me, like from the front. And it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, that's true, but it's my company. And also, I can't afford to pay that person. Like I'm sure that's out there,
Yeah.
but they're not going to work for the money that I'm working for, right? So
Right.
it's yeah, so it's like I kind of have to like do that. And I think that this year at the ZenMaid team retreat, I think this was probably the first year where on like a very deep level, it was like, oh no, like I'm the best person to actually be leading this right now. That might not be true forever, but for like a couple of years right now, I think that I'm the best place to like make things happen, to make the right strategic decisions. And like, I feel like right now, the company is at a perfect place for like where I am like in my life. And I don't think it really matched up like before this. I think I was forcing it before this.
Wow, that's some really well. Thanks for that reflection and for being so real with us. I mean, I don't think that's uncommon, right? I don't
Mhm.
like that's, and a lot of us are just we're learning as we go. It's not. I think that some people think, oh, leaders are you're born a leader or whatever, and maybe you're born with confidence and like the ability to just get out there and talk to people or whatever, but that doesn't mean you're a leader. And like I think of leadership as a very specific skill set. Like you mentioned a few things, and John Maxwell has, I think, like 25 principles of a great leader. And
Yeah.
there's all these great leadership greats out there. And I think that honestly, I almost think it's like irrefutable that the growth of your business will be held back, or it will match the growth of you as a person and the growth of your leadership skills. And until we really
Yeah.
invest in those, and until we really focus on that, and a lot of that comes to self leadership, self management, like you mentioned, managing yourself. It's a huge part of it, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
What are there certain books or people that you look or mentors that you look to help with that, or did you just kind of seek it out, try things out, flex your muscles, see how it went? I like your proverbial muscles.
Yeah. I'm definitely a big believer in like learning from others. That I see some people out there where it's like they figure out things that I just never in a million years would have ever figured out. And I'm just like, my brain does not work that way. I could not have worked from like first principles to that. Yeah, I'm very much like the systems that I want in place in my business and go and follow the instructions to get those in place and then adjust as I go. In terms of people that I follow, it's been a lot over the years. Tim Ferriss was like probably the single biggest like person who had the biggest impact on my life, and he's probably the reason that I ultimately became an entrepreneur, and that entrepreneurship has led to the life that I was able to live for what 8 years from 2015. That he's probably like the number one, but that was really more of a mindset thing than anything else. Recently, I've been on a big kick with Alex Hormozy and Layla Hormozy, which is two very interesting. It's cool to see the husband wife like combination there, and that they both have their own podcasts. And so he's very strategic and very not necessarily removed, but it's a very simplified way of looking at business where she's all about the emotional sort of like bits of like leadership and all that. And so I found those two to be really good. And what I really like there is just they have a way of verbalizing concepts that oftentimes I already know and have internalized, but I haven't been able to verbalize to my team. And so going back to
Mm-hmm.
your question before of like how has kind of my leadership changed and everything, for a long time, for the first like 5 years or something, my job was to essentially build the product and to build the marketing. And then for a couple of years there, it was to build the team that built the product and built the marketing. And now it's to essentially build the team that, or to, yeah, like build the team that builds the team, right? Which is essentially like the final kind of thing. And so one thing that's interesting in terms of my leadership now is that for a long time, it was very much me solving the problems and me coming up with the answers and a lot of that stuff. And now it's so much more like, I have my one-on-one with my team leader. They talk me through the problem. I talk them through how I would think about it, and then they go off and they solve like they solve the actual problems, or they're coming to me and going, "Hey, we want to do this," and it's just a final sign off in case I'm like, "Hey, like that's gonna mess up the company. We can't go that direction." But
Right.
that's been very interesting to like let go of like of control and to not be involved. I mean, my favorite thing was we released a feature, the SOS feature, so like if a cleaner's being harassed or something in a cleaner like or in a client's home, there's like a one-click button now in ZenMaid that can notify the office and any cleaners nearby that this person's like uncomfortable or maybe in like an unsafe like sort of like situation.
That's awesome.
I got an email from myself announcing this feature that I had heard about once in discussion. And I get this email and I read this email and I'm like, wow, Amar, like that's a really great feature and a really well-written email. And then I go into Slack and like congratulate the marketing team, congratulate the product team and all that. So like that's something that's like quite interesting where like so much of my time these days is either calls or thinking, and so much of my time on calls is explaining how I think to my team. It's no longer giving answers. And that's been a really big and a revelation for me probably in the past like 6 months or so.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations. I think that's one of the biggest shifts that business owners have a hard time making, but have to make in order to scale and have more freedom from their business, right?
Exactly.
Hey, friend, a quick break to ask you to please go to livebrightshow.com to be added to my email list. Here's the thing. I hate email, so I pretty much guarantee you're not going to receive anything excessive. Only important things like when I have new options in my coaching program, offer free challenges, new courses, release a new pod, or perhaps an occasional biz life tip. That's livebrightshow.com. Now back to the pod. Is there anything that you could point to, and there might not be like, but any sort of practical stuff that you did in there to like make that happen? Did you just start to naturally do it with your own development? I feel like people talk about all the different levels of delegation and all this other stuff. But I do think it requires a very basic shift in who we are and how we're presenting ourselves to our team. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there anything there that you could think about or point to? And maybe not. Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, so it's a tough one because honestly, I feel like this was one where I sort of grew with the company and the company sort of grew with me, where For like all I can speak to here is my own experience. And so with my own experience, there were a couple of hires that we've brought in the past like maybe 2 years or so that really just raised the bar and sort of reset the level for everyone, including for me, of like, oh, this is what top talent can look like in every
Ah.
kind of of department. And I think that sort of shifted me into that. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's not necessarily anything specific that I can point to, because I can say that, like, I wasn't expecting the feeling that I had when I arrived in Spain this year for the ZenMaid team retreat. That I arrived at the villa that we were all staying at, and there was just a very different energy around the place, and for me specifically, that I definitely wasn't expecting. So I do think it kind of snuck up on me, to be honest.
Huh. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. I'm glad for you. I mean, and you've clearly done the work. You've done a lot of, I mean, you invest in yourself and in your growth and all of that, right?
Yeah.
You're doing it and you're going through the changes. I want to go back for a second because I
Mhm.
think there's probably a good tie-in. You talked about Tim Ferriss being one of your earliest sort of mentors and probably the reason you became an entrepreneur. And I got to tell you, I have a very distinct memory of sitting on a beach in Mexico in 2007 and reading the 4 Hour Work Week. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going, I'm
Yeah.
going to have it. And anyway, fast forward, I don't know how many years, maybe I have a 4 Hour Work Week. 'Cause actually I don't, because I'm doing a lot more stuff, but he really, I think, ignited a dream for a whole generation of entrepreneurs, and also how to live differently. And it seems like that's definitely informed you. I've watched you over the years. That's why I said, where in the world are you as we started? Because you've been growing yourself and a company while living in how many different countries at this point in time in the last 12 years?
I know that I think at last count it was like 36 or 37. So, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Can you talk to us a little bit about what impact moving like that and exploring and being in new places has had on your sort of professional and entrepreneurial journey a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing is, I think that there's a lot of people that they're going to hear that and immediately be like, there's no way that's like productive or that's like the best way to do it. And it's like, yeah, not the best way to do it, right? That before I did that, I'd worked on the business for almost 3 years without paying myself a penny. So when I started doing that, I wasn't paying myself very much, but I was paying myself enough to get by like every month. And it was like a very conservative amount from our actual revenue and stuff. And so I think really what it is that most people, if you set the constraints first when looking at a problem, oftentimes it can really simplify the solution. That to me, the definition of winning with the company was making enough money while traveling the world. It wasn't to make the most money possible and then to travel the world. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was just a very basic thing of I'm going to set this up in a way that's going to work for me as I live this lifestyle. And there were some things of like in the beginning, we changed places too much, and we particularly changed continents too often, which meant we changed time zones too often. After year one or two, it became a lot more consistent, where even if we moved around a little bit, the time zones would remain the same or remain very similar, so that it was I would have, let's say, 4 months that I could get in solid blocks of calls at specific times. So another thing about traveling was, first of all, my work is very interrupt driven, that I tended to do sales and to be on calls and to constantly be jumping between different things. I don't do much deep work, right? People that do deep work and want to sit and code for 12 hours straight, nomad life is not going to be like the easiest like kind
Right.
of thing, but it worked like nicely for me. But the other thing is that because, especially at the beginning, my primary job was calls, and now it's calls like internal meetings. Then it was calls like sales calls, right? If it was just talking to as many maid service owners as humanly possible. So essentially, what I found was that based on where I was in the world, there were different call patterns that I would essentially make. So, like, for example, in Thailand, I had to stay up late to make calls. So my call hours might be from 10 at night until maybe 2 a.m. in the morning. And that's not like the most fun, but I could do that 2 or 3 nights a week and get in most of my sales calls like then. And I would essentially be getting in all of my sales calls in maybe a 4 hour gap. If I went back home during this time, as in back to the US and was like visiting my parents or something, then I'm in the US on my clients' time zones. And so for that, I might be available for 14 hours a day for calls, and I'm going to get a lot less of our marketing work done and a lot less of our product work done because I'm just going to be in sort of like a sprint sort of season. So when I was in
Hmm.
Asia, I might have 4 hours of calls at night, but then I would have all day to either be living life and be on the beach or whatever, or to be going deep into our marketing, into our product, and all of that. So, one of the things that me and my co founder sort of fell into a rhythm of is when we knew in advance where I was going to be, we began to just sort of plan sort of the company like almost seasons around that.
Hmm.
And that's a luxury that you have when you're not having to optimize for perfect growth all the time. That we were happy to take 70, 80% of like our potential growth at any given time if it gave us more lifestyle flexibility.
I love that. So that's a business that works for you rather than you working for the business, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a perfect example of that. And how did you, I mean, it's kind of atypical, I would say, especially for in the SaaS world. And for those listeners that don't know, that's service as a software. Like in this, like, so in that world, like people tend to go hard, fast to scale.
Mhm.
And so you, was that a really conscious decision that you made so that you could have the lifestyle that you desired? Is that how that happened or?
So I think the interesting thing there is, I guess maybe I was a little bit early to it, but I was distinctly part of like multiple communities around that time when we started ZenMaid, where it was like bootstrapped software companies. So software companies that were self-funded and that didn't need to grow as aggressively. So a big thing was that we're not in a winner take all market, right? That no matter how good our software is, there will always be people that will prefer our competitors or will never leave our competitors simply because many of our competitors have done an outstanding job and have never let them down. And they're not going to leave until they're given a reason like to leave and whatever. And so that's not as true of a company like Uber. With Uber and Lyft, it's the winner is going to get a massive amount of rewards, and most people don't even know who placed third in
Right.
that race. Whereas for ZenMaid, ZenMaid can make enough money, Jobber can make enough money, Maid Central, like we can all win and be perfectly fine because there's just enough money to go around, and there isn't a winner take all like kind of scenario. So with that in mind, like ZenMaid, honestly, it was very slow that my co-founder quit after 4 years working on the business because we were making about $15,000 a month after 4 years. So at that
Yeah.
point in time, I think we were paying ourselves $1,000 a month each. We were both, young, like young 20s, just didn't have any responsibilities. And I was making that last for me in Thailand. And then the company was paying for my flights, which were always 36 hours and the cheapest you could possibly find. And so like essentially like that was where everything like kind of like started there. And so yeah, I mean it took us over 3 years to get to $10,000 a month. And I think that my co-founder looked at how much time we had put in and how much we were ultimately making, whereas I looked at it and what I saw and I just kind of never lost sight of was I just kept telling myself, hey, yes, you've been working on this for a long time, but you have a software company, you have an actual software product that a bunch of clients are happily paying you $15,000 a month for. A bunch of people out there would absolutely kill for this opportunity and would kill to have for this product no matter how long it took. And so that's something that I just always had in my head where it's like, if I have a business that makes $1 million a year, it doesn't matter whether it takes 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. When I get there, it's going to be worth it. Right. And I just
That's
never lost
awesome.
sight of that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What is your vision for ZenMaid? Where's it going?
That's a good question. our company slogan is making maid services successful. And so I'm really just thinking about that like these days. Can we do? So the Maid Summit is a great example of something that we do that's outside the software. And I think that making maid services successful is just something I really like it because first of all, everyone in our company, we can tie back to how they're making maid services successful, whether that's through helping people to be successful with our software or on the marketing side, it's putting out amazing content that helps people of all levels and that use any software that's out there. And what I like about that is I feel like that's going to be a never ending like
Totally.
kind of
Yep.
challenge.
100%.
Yeah, for me personally, I really love the building of the business. And so for me, I'm just really enjoying building the team, seeing the actual ZenMaid organization just as its own entity, like grow and being able to impact like more and more. So I seriously doubt that I'm ever going to sell. Like I could see at some point in the future stepping back as the CEO and finding someone else to like take it over and to like and to lead it. But for now, it's like I love what I do. I wake up every day thinking about problems that I find fun in ZenMaid and about the industry. And until that changes, a lot of people are going to have to put up with me.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. You said I think feel like this is like the perfect bridge because before we got started, we were talking about your love of football, or Americans would call it soccer. You're in the UK and the rest of the world knows what football is. And so
Yeah.
you have like a massive goal there. Want to talk to us a little bit about that because that's going to take some big software stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. For the listeners, I was telling Molly before we started recording that my goal is to make enough money with this business that I can lose it all with a football club here in the UK. Theoretically, I can buy one for like $1 and just take on millions and millions of pounds of debt. Yeah, so it's if you're willing to go into a bunch of debt, you can actually like buy them on the cheap when they come up for sale. But yes, I grew up playing soccer in the US and it was kind of like my first love like growing up. And so in fact, I grew up playing, reffing, and coaching it. So actually like now that
Ah,
I'm settled in the UK and when we start a family in the future, I fully expect to be doing that. That's something that they always say like, what's something that you would spend your time, doing for free, right? Or that you wouldn't care were
mm,
paid for. And for me, the things that I've found like while building ZenMaid is helping other software founders. And then the other one is just like coaching soccer that I
yeah.
can just go out and just lose all sense of time, just like, helping kids with drills and like and stuff like that. And so yes, I have a big goal of eventually buying a big name club here in England, but that's many decades away.
All right. All right. Well, we know you like to play the long game, obviously. So
Yeah.
I fully expect to see that in a couple of decades. What's your favorite team?
I really like Arsenal Football Club in
Okay.
North London.
Okay. Okay. Any particular reason why you really like Arsenal?
So for any non American listeners, they're probably going to be frustrated by this because it's just like, why does this American, like Arsenal? So growing up in the U.S., I believe there were only four teams that you could essentially see regularly like playing until the Premier League really, really took off in maybe like, I don't know, 2006 or something. So when I was growing up, Arsenal was just one of the teams that like I was able to follow and watch some of the matches of. I honestly don't know
Got it.
beyond that. I just
All right.
as long as I can remember, I've supported
All right.
Arsenal.
Arsenal. All right. All right. I love it. It doesn't have to be deep. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
deep. So Amar, I'd love to ask you a little bit about how this show is about people who I think are living bright, leading
Mhm.
bright, and not specifically, but I love to highlight folks that are doing it because we can all learn from one another. And obviously as business owners, small or large business owners, oftentimes who we are and parts of our identity are tied into being an entrepreneur, of course, as well as maybe being a husband, a wife, whatever, a soccer business
Yeah.
owner, whatever it might be, right? But it is a part of who we are. And so, how do you, as a business owner, how do you navigate the personal with the professional, because you are leading the charge in your team. You are driving the growth. And so, and I know because you've shared things on Facebook in particular, like you've had some health challenges, you lost your dad really young, like navigating some of those things while in this massive expansion drive mode. How do you do that?
That's an interesting one because to me it's almost I've found ZenMaid to be a really helpful tool for me almost like throughout a lot of the personal challenges that I've been through in the past couple of years that, I mean, I smashed up my ankle and was in the hospital for 19 days and people were like, "How are you working?" And I was just like, what else am I gonna do? I'm sitting in the hospital, like in pain because of my ankle, like waiting for another surgery. Do you think that I would rather be like scrolling Instagram for 4 hours? I'd rather be on Slack, like talking with my friends and feeling the slightest bit productive, or like, I'm still like useful to the
Right.
world. It's almost been like an outlet in terms of like with the team and sort of driving the team forward while also being very open about like my lifestyle and everything is because I think that I've set expectations with ZenMaid in a way where it's like it's not about how many hours you're putting in, it's about the actual output and the actual productivity. And of course, some positions are going to require more time like actually in front of the computer and everything. But I think for me it's one of those things where no matter what my team sees on my social media, they know that I'm there. They know that I'm showing up every single day and that 12 and a half years in, if someone signs up for a trial, there's an outside chance that they get a call from me directly and not from one of the sales team members because I'm still in there, because I'm still providing support every day, and because like I'm walking the walk, like along
Mm-hmm.
with everyone else and like leading by example and everything. So yeah, for me, I feel like I've been really lucky that just owning ZenMaid, I've always felt like it's been essentially a tool for me, and to me it adds a ton of balance to my life with how I'm able to pick and choose my schedule. But I mean, with that, I feel like I'm very, very blessed that way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it sounds like it's been like a really good focus point for you too, through some of the
Yes.
hard times. It's a place to put your energy in a healthy way rather than unhealthy or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually something that we've that like I think I learned from when my dad passed is like if there's ever times like that where it's like we have team members where it's like they're like, "Hey, someone just like filed for divorce or something like that." Before people are like, always, "Hey, take like the time off." And now it's like what we say is, "Hey, take the time off, or if work is what you need to distract yourself, then like let us know and by all means jump into work and take time off later when you feel like it's the right time to take time
Mm.
off, but it's more just like do what feels right."
That's great. I think that's such good leadership, and it sounds like you're very authentic and they know who you are, and that builds a lot of trust, that builds a lot of buy-in, and it's pretty incredible. I think with a remote team and people working, how many different are you in every time zone that there is with your team at this point, or
It's
just
it's
about?
it's mainly Europe and the Americas, but even between the
Okay.
Americas, we probably have four different time zones.
Yeah.
So
So there's got to be a lot of built-in flexibility anyway, I would
yeah.
think. But that's awesome. Well, man, Amar, it's been so fun having you on here. Thanks for joining. And I would love for you to share with people before I completely wrap up, because I always
Mhm.
forget this. Where can people find you? Where can they go to see the maybe the ZenMaid Summit if they want to do that? If you could share a
Yep.
little bit of that would be awesome.
Yeah, perfect. Couple quick links here for you guys. So if you're a maid service owner listening to this, check out zenmaid.com and maidsummit.com to check out the virtual conference that's coming up, I believe, in September. So plenty of time to register for that. But yeah, join a couple thousand other maid service owner with some wonderful experts such as Molly here. Yeah, join that. If you guys are interested in hearing more from me, I'm starting to get more active on LinkedIn. So that's just Amar Ghosh. It's Ghose. I'm also active on Twitter. I don't really have too many like my home business friends or local service business friends that follow me like on Twitter. That's almost more like my software sort of location. And then my personal website, in case you guys want to find any of these links like more easily or some of my blog posts and stuff, is theamericandream.com.
I love that. TheAmericanDream.com. And I totally mispronounced your last name when I introduced you. I am so sorry about that.
It's okay. It happens. It happens. Yeah, you didn't ask me
It's
before, and I was
not
like,
okay.
yeah, it's
I
going
should
to
have
happen.
asked.
It's okay. It doesn't
Oh,
matter.
God, I'm sorry. All right, Amar Ghose. Hey, spell the American dream, would you please?
Yes, it's essentially just like the American dream, but AMAR instead of American. So
Okay.
TheAmericandream
.com.
.com. Had to
Okay,
think that one
thank you.
through.
Thank you. I saw it. I saw it near wheels turning there. Amar, tell us this life you've created, which is pretty freaking cool. And I gotta say, hopefully we can cross paths in real life at some point in time. But this bright life you've got going on, would you say that it's more by luck or by design?
So I would definitely say that it is by design because it's something that like I consciously decided that I was going to do. I mean, when I read like the 4 hour work week back in the day, I think the difference between me and a lot of the other people that read it was that I had friends that were playing poker that had already moved to Costa Rica, and that like I didn't know them in person, but I knew them online and was chatting with them every day. So when I read this book, I had lots of friends that said this sounds like the coolest thing ever, but it's just a pipe dream. And then I had people online that were just like, hey, like this is actually already like happening. So in that sense, it was something that me and Arun, when we started ZenMaid, it's our goal is to make enough money to just make ends meet and to travel the world. So in that sense, it was all by design. As I've gotten older, though, I've realized just how much luck was involved for me to even have that opportunity to begin with. Is just the fact that I was born in the United States and not in India, like where my dad like was, right? Like when I look at my dad's journey to immigrate from India like to the US before I was born, I look at that and go, there's no way that I could have ever done that, right? If that's what was necessary for me to be successful, it wouldn't have happened. And I respect him like him so much for that. So I think there was a lot of luck, but like there was luck in a sense that there were probably hundreds of thousands or more people that had the same opportunity that I did because we were all similarly lucky, and from there it was design. Bit of both.
Bit of both. I love that. I love that answer. Well, Amar, thank you so much for joining. And that is another episode of the Live Bright Show. Thanks all for listening. And make sure you check out Amar and all the places where you can find Amar Ghose and ZenMaid. Thanks, Amar.
Thank you.
And that's it for today. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Live Bright Show. If you enjoyed this pod, please go to livebrightshow.com to be in the know for new program offerings and podcast releases. Molly has more awesome guests and content coming your way, so you're going to want to be on that list. Also, just because you're still listening, it would be incredible if you could go ahead and subscribe to this podcast and provide the show with a 5-star review. You know how they help. Go forth, have fun, and live bright, friends.